Hello and welcome to Into the Shadows. I'm Melissa. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Last week's episode got me thinking about my healing journey. And it also sparked a question in me where I started to wonder why some people choose healing and some people don't. And that got me thinking about my own healing journey and what moments stood out to me as transitions on my path. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Those moments. What I learned, how I grew, and why it meant something to me. Shortly after I got divorced and I moved out, I remember being in my room and really struggling with the fact that I had stayed as long as I had in this abusive marriage, 13 years to be exact. And, I was a shell of a person. I didn't know who I was. I had no sense of self left. And that really sucked, really bad. I didn't know up from down and left and right. I was very much beside myself. And I remember sitting there on my carpet, just crying. And I remember a question popped into my head. And that question was, how did I get here? How did I get to this place? A place where I allowed someone to treat me the way they did for as long as they did, to abuse me. And it was then that I realized I had followed in my mom's footsteps. I had participated in intergenerational trauma, unbeknownst to me. Because when we're younger, we don't know any better. We don't know that we're following in anyone's footsteps. We just kind of do what's familiar. And that's what I did. I married a narcissist, an abusive one, just like my mom. And it kind of broke my heart. I was also kind of mad at myself that I didn't know and that I didn't see. But it was also when I realized that I was a codependent. I was the sacrificial lamb. And I believed that by ignoring my own needs and serving others was love. It was this moment of reclamation. And it was so hard. It was a really hard pill to swallow. But it was also beautiful because it helped me take accountability. Instead of life is happening to me, which is very much rooted in victim consciousness, there was a flip where life is happening for me, meaning I didn't have to be a victim to what happened to me. Of course, I was a victim to the abuse. That is true. But I no longer gave my power away to being helpless to the situation. What it showed me about myself is that I overgave, so much so that I lost my sense of self. It also showed me that everything wasn't just one-sided. I also took part in the abuse. And that was a really hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, it was so liberating. And in a way, it was taking my power back and recognizing that if I can take accountability for how I got here, then I don't have to repeat this pattern in the future. It gave me a mirror to relationships and recognizing that we always have a part that we play. The other moment that really helped me on my healing path, you know how they say a book finds you, you don't find the book? This was one of those moments. I was at work and someone had a book and they asked me if I wanted to borrow it. So I did, and I took it home and I started to read it. And the book was called Conversations with God. The first thing it talks about is there's a reason to suffering. Or maybe a better way to put that is you can always find a lesson through the hard. You can always find the deeper meaning around why you went through what you went through. And to me, that was pretty revolutionary, especially because I was in victim consciousness. The other point that I loved is it brings you up to this higher perspective, this God perspective. We could call it higher awareness, where you go up to this eagle's eye view and look down at your life as if you are God. So I did that. I closed my eyes and I visualized flying up above my life. And I remember being up there and asking that question. If I was God, why would I put Melissa through these experiences with her abusive marriage? What is it that she has to gain or learn from this experience? And I remember just sobbing and crying because I recognized that there was so much. It sounds almost kind of twisted in the moment because of how horrible my life was. But it was so beautiful. And what I realized was I had completely lost all of my power. I'd given it up. I shoved it so far down, I forgot I had it. And believe it or not, that teaches you something. For me, it gave me contrast. You know how they say that to know the light, you also need to know the dark? Or maybe a better way to say that is to know the full extent of the light. You need to know the full extent of the dark. Having that loss of power, that complete and total loss of power, showed me that dark. It gave me contrast. And contrast is invaluable. It creates deeper awareness and deeper states of empathy. And it gives you a roadmap of sorts. That if I've been here, then what's ahead? If I'm at the bottom, if I'm in the dark and I'm at the bottom, then what is there to discover out there? I didn't know the full extent of my power, clearly. I think in that moment I was just starting to barely taste it. But I knew there was more for me. And I knew that the experience that I had gone through taught me contrast, and it gave me depth. And I prayed to God in that moment. And weirdly enough, I gave so much thanks to the experience of what I had gone through. And I walked away knowing the lesson. And what I'm still learning is anytime that I feel lost or I want to understand why I went through something, I can go up to that higher awareness. I can look down at my life and ask, what is it that I'm supposed to gain or learn here? And the last point I wanted to make today about something that really changed my life is courage. I truly believe that courage is birthed through the hard, the impossible. For me, it came in my life when choosing to get divorced took so much courage. But in that moment, I realized I had two options. One was to stay stuck and stay miserable, and the other was to have courage, to step into the unknown. And nothing sounded worse than staying stuck where I was. So courage was birthed through stepping into the unknown and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and say that that is easy. To me, that was one of the hardest things that I had to do. I didn't have support from family. I didn't have a career to fall back on. I had 3 little kids under the age of 7. And, I stood at the edge of that cliff and I jumped. And I also listened to my body. I listened and trusted that the excitement that I felt around getting divorced outweighed any fears that I had around making that decision. And I've never looked back. I've never doubted that choice. So courage is this beautiful thing that comes from self-trust. And it's birthed through suffering. Thank you so much for listening to my stories. I didn't know I was going to cry that much. But I'm just really glad that you guys are here and listening, and I hope that you gained something from my message. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.